Darcy Headley didn't believe in curses. She believed in numbers, leverage, and the kind of opportunities that made other people nervous, which is exactly why she was standing in the Boulder County Land Office staring at a property listing that made her heart race for all the right reasons. Whispering Winds Ranch, 320 acres, water rights included, structures intact, asking price, $1,000. Title clear. Immediate occupancy. There's a catch, the land clerk said, not even trying to sell her on it. There's always a catch with Whispering Winds. Darcy looked up from the listing, her green eyes sharp with interest. I'm listening. The clerk, a woman in her 50s named Edith, leaned back in her chair and folded her arms. 5 owners in 18 months. Not one of them made it past 8 weeks. They all claimed the place was cursed, said strange things happened there, that the land didn't want them. Now the county owns it again, and we're just trying to get it off our books. What kind of strange things? Darcy asked, pulling out her notebook. She'd learned to ask the right questions to separate superstition from structural problems. Depends who you ask. First owner said his equipment kept breaking down in ways that didn't make sense. Brand new tractor engine seized up. The well pump failed 3 times. Barn door fell off the hinges twice in 1 week. Second owner, a young couple. They said they heard things at night. Crying, they said, like a woman or a child in distress, but they could never find the source. The third owner lasted 12 days. He was a tough old rancher. Didn't scare easy, but even he left. Wouldn't talk about what happened. Just said the land wanted to be left alone. Darcy was already doing math in her head. The property had water rights. In this part of Colorado, that alone made it worth 20 times what surrounding land sold for. Even if the structures were completely unsalvageable, she could flip the land for a profit of $15,000 to $20,000 within 6 months. What's the property tax situation? She asked. Edith blinked, clearly not expecting such a practical question. About $300 annually, current through the end of the year since the county owns it, and the water rights are transferable with the deed. Yes, but I'll take it. Darcy pulled 10 crisp $100 bills from her wallet and set them on the desk. Draw up the papers. Edith stared at her. Miss Hadley, I don't think you understand. I understand perfectly. You have a property no one wants because of superstitious nonsense, and I have a business model built on buying distressed assets. This is what I do. Darcy smiled, the same confident smile that had helped her build a small real estate portfolio from nothing in just 5 years. I don't believe in curses, Mrs. Edith. I believe in opportunities that other people are too scared to take. 2 hours later, Darcy rode toward her new property on her sturdy Appaloosa Gillying Checkers. With the deed tucked safely in her saddlebag and a plan already forming in her mind, she'd spend 2 weeks maximum getting the place cleaned up and documented, hire someone to manage any major repairs, then list it with an agent in Denver who specialized in water rights properties. By spring, she'd pocket her profit and move on to the next opportunity. She'd been flipping properties for 3 years now, ever since she'd realized that training horses for other people's ranches would never build her the financial security she craved. Darcy had grown up poor, watching her mother work herself into an early grave, trying to keep their small farm afloat after her father died. She'd promised herself she'd never be that vulnerable, never be one bad season away from losing everything. So, she'd saved every penny, learned everything she could about land values and property law, and started small, buying abandoned homesteads, fixing them up, and selling them to newcomers who wanted their piece of the frontier. She was good at it. More than good. She had an eye for potential and a willingness to take risks that made her more successful than men twice her age with twice her capital. A cursed ranch for $1,000. That wasn't a risk. That was a gift. The property came into view as she crested a ridge, and Darcy had to admit it was more impressive than she'd expected. The house was a solid 2-story structure with a stone foundation and a covered porch that wrapped around 2 sides. The barn was easily 40 feet long, built from good timber with a sound roof and large doors that hung straight. She could see a stable, a chicken coop, a smokehouse, and what looked like a workshop. All the infrastructure of a working ranch. The setting was spectacular, too. The property ran along the Clearwater River with cottonwood trees providing shade and shelter. Rolling pasture land stretched to the east, perfect for cattle or horses. The mountains rose in the distance, purple and majestic against the afternoon sky. This wasn't a cursed property. This was prime real estate that someone was going to pay dearly for. Darcy dismounted at the barn, her practiced eye already assessing its condition. The doors opened smoothly. The interior was dim but clean with stalls along both sides and a tack room at the far end. Hay still filled the loft. Actually, good hay, not moldy or spoiled. Someone had left in a hurry, but had been taking good care of the place up until they did. She was examining the quality of the stall construction when she heard it. A sound from the last stall, the largest one, set apart from the others. Not a threatening sound, but a soft inquiring nicker. The sound of a horse. Darcy froze. Edith hadn't mentioned livestock. The property was supposed to be empty. She approached the stall slowly, her hand instinctively checking for the small pistol she kept at her hip. Not because she expected trouble, but because she'd learned to be prepared for anything. As she got closer, she could make out a shape in the dimness. A horse. A mare from the look of her. And not just any mare. Darcy caught her breath. The horse was a palomino. Her coat the color of newly minted gold. Her mane and tail almost white in their paleness. She was beautiful with refined features that spoke of quality breeding and a depth to her eyes that suggested intelligence and spirit. But she was also heavily pregnant. Well, Darcy said softly, Edith definitely didn't mention you. The mayor watched her with surprising calm. Not spooked or aggressive, just alert and assessing. As Darcy's eyes adjusted to the light, she noticed more details. The mare had fresh water and hay. Her coat was clean and well-groomed. Her hooves were recently trimmed. Someone had been caring for her and doing it well. But who and why had they left her behind? Darcy spent the next hour doing a thorough search of the property. In the house, she found furniture left behind. Not trash, but good quality pieces that were simply abandoned. The kitchen had dishes in the cupboard. The bedroom had linens on the bed, as if someone had walked away from their life mid-moment and never looked back. In the barn's tack room, she found something even more puzzling. A ledger meticulously maintained documenting the mayor's care. Feed schedules, grooming notes, observations about her health and temperament. The entries went back 6 months and continued right up until 3 days ago. The last entry made Darcy's skin prickle. She's close now. Maybe a week, maybe less. I can't stay any longer. Whatever happens, she needs to be protected. The FO especially. Don't let them take it. Don't let them know. Don't let who take it. Don't let who know what. Darcy sat down on a hay bale, the ledger open on her lap, trying to make sense of it. She flipped back through the pages, looking for more context. The handwriting was neat, educated, belonging to someone who cared deeply about the mayor. There were notes about the mayor's lineage. Apparently, she was descended from a famous racing line out of Kentucky. The sire of her FO was mentioned only as the Black Stallion, with a note that if the FO inherits his speed and her intelligence, it will be worth a fortune. A fortune. That word stuck in Darcy's mind. She looked at the dates more carefully. Each owner had left shortly after making entries in the ledger. The handwriting changed 5 times over the past 18 months, but the care for the mayor remained constant. Each person had taken over where the last left off, maintaining the same detailed records, providing the same excellent care until something scared them away. What happened here? Darcy asked aloud, her voice echoing in the empty barn. She didn't believe in curses, but she was starting to believe in secrets and in people who would do terrible things to protect those secrets. That first night, Darcy set up camp in the house, doing a quick cleaning of one bedroom and starting a fire in the wood stove. She'd brought basic supplies from town, enough to last a week or so, and she fixed herself a simple meal while her mind worked through the puzzle. Someone wanted this ranch empty. That much was clear. The curse was too convenient, the pattern too consistent. 5 owners in 18 months, all scared away, all leaving behind a well-ard for pregnant mayor worth potentially thousands of dollars. The question was why? What was so valuable about this property that someone would orchestrate an elaborate campaign to keep people away? The water rights were valuable, yes, but not enough to justify this level of effort. There had to be something else. Around midnight, Darcy found out what that something else might be. She was jerked awake by the sound of riders approaching. Multiple horses moving fast. Darcy grabbed her pistol and moved to the window, careful to stay in shadow. In the moonlight, she counted at least 6 horsemen circling the property like wolves around a kill. They didn't approach the house directly. Instead, they seemed to be checking something, riding the perimeter, stopping at specific points. Darcy watched one rider dismount near the river, do something she couldn't quite see, then remount and continue on. They were gone within 10 minutes, vanishing as quickly as they'd appeared. But their visit confirmed what Darcy had begun to suspect. She wasn't alone out here, and someone was very interested in this property. The next morning, Darcy followed the route the riders had taken, looking for clues. She found them along the river. Survey stakes freshly placed, marking out what looked like a diversion channel or mining claim. Mining claim. Darcy's heart began to race. She walked further along the river following the stakes and found more evidence. Test holes dug into the bank, panning equipment partially hidden under brush, and most telling of all, traces of gold in the sandy bottom of one of the test holes. This wasn't about the ranch. This was about gold. Someone had discovered gold on or near Whispering Winds Ranch, and they needed the property to be empty so they could work the claim without interference. The curse was a cover story, a way to scare off legitimate owners so the land would stay vacant and available for illegal mining. But why not just buy the ranch legitimately? Unless they didn't have clear legal claim to the mineral rights, or unless they knew that once word got out about gold, the property value would skyrocket beyond their ability to purchase it. Darcy stood by the river, pieces clicking into place. The mayor wasn't just a valuable animal. She was a complication. Anyone staying on the property to care for her would notice the mining activity. That's why each owner had been driven away. Not because they cared about a curse, but because someone made sure their experience was unpleasant enough to override their commitment to the mayor. Equipment sabotage. Noises in the night designed to unsettle, maybe even direct threats, whatever it took to make people leave. But Darcy wasn't like the previous owners. She didn't scare easily, and she definitely didn't run from a fight, especially not when there was money involved. She spent that day documenting everything she'd found. The survey stakes, the test holes, the traces of gold. She sketched a map of the mining activity and noted the pattern. This was her property now, legally purchased, and anyone mining here without her permission was trespassing and stealing. But she needed to be smart about this. If the people behind this were willing to sabotage equipment and terrorize property owners, they might be willing to do worse to protect their operation. She needed help, and she needed to protect that mayor. As if summoned by her thoughts, Darcy heard a commotion from the barn. She ran toward it, pistol drawn, expecting to find intruders. Instead, she found the Palomino mare in distress. The FO was coming. Oh, no, no, no. Darcy breathed quickly, assessing the situation. She'd assisted with enough foaling over the years to know the basics, but this was complicated by the isolation, the lack of veterinary help, and the very real possibility that hostile people might show up at any moment. But the mayor's need was immediate and undeniable. Darcy threw off her jacket and rolled up her sleeves. "All right, girl," she said softly, entering the stall and approaching the mayor carefully. "We're going to get through this together." The mayor, despite her pain and fear, seemed to understand. She allowed Darcy close, even seemed grateful for the company. Darcy checked her progress and was relieved to find the FO positioned correctly. This should be a normal delivery if nothing went wrong. The next 2 hours were intense. Darcy stayed with the mayor, speaking encouragingly, helping when she could, giving the mayor space when she needed it. She brought fresh water, clean towels, everything she could think of to make the process easier. And finally, as afternoon light slanted through the barn's high windows, the FO arrived. It was a colt, wet and wobbly, and absolutely perfect. His coat was dark, would probably mature to a rich bay or brown, inheriting color from his sire, but his build, even at birth, suggested he'd inherited his dam's elegance and his sire's power. The mayor immediately began cleaning her FO, nickering softly, her exhaustion forgotten in the presence of her baby. Darcy watched, tears unexpectedly stinging her eyes. There was something about new life, about the miracle of birth that got to her no matter how practical she tried to be. "You did beautifully," she told the mayor. "He's perfect." As if in response, the colt struggled to his feet on shaky legs, already trying to nurse. The mayor positioned herself to help him, and within minutes, the colt was feeding, his tiny tail swishing with contentment. Darcy sat back against the stall wall, watching mother and son, and felt something shift inside her. This wasn't just a business opportunity anymore. This was personal. She'd protect this mayor and her FO no matter what it took. The trouble came that very night. Darcy was in the barn checking on the mayor and FO one last time before bed when she heard horses approaching. Multiple riders again, but this time they weren't being subtle or cautious. They rode straight up to the barn, and a man's voice called out, "You in there? Whoever you are, come out where we can see you." Darcy grabbed her rifle from where she'd propped it by the barn door and stepped out, making sure she was visible in the lamplight but keeping the rifle ready. 5 men faced her, all mounted, all looking rough and dangerous in the way of men who were used to taking what they wanted. "This is private property," Darcy said, her voice steady. "You're trespassing." The leader, a man with a grizzled beard and cold eyes, laughed. "Private property? Lady, you don't know what you've stepped into. This land is cursed. Everyone knows it. Smart thing would be to cut your losses and ride out tonight." "I don't believe in curses," Darcy replied. "I believe in the deed I have in my saddlebag that says this land is mine. Now leave before I'm forced to defend my property." One of the other men spat into the dirt. "She thinks she's tough, boys. Maybe we need to show her what happens to people who don't listen to good advice." They started to dismount, and Darcy knew she was out of options. 5 against 1. And even with her rifle, the odds weren't good. That's when the mayor screamed. It wasn't a normal horse sound. It was a war cry, high and piercing and filled with a mother's fury. The mayor burst from the barn. In her haste, Darcy had left the door open and charged directly at the men. She was magnificent and terrifying, her teeth bared, her hooves striking like hammers. The men's horses panicked, rearing and spinning, throwing 2 of their riders. The mayor went after them, specifically driving them back, protecting the barn where her vulnerable FO lay hidden. Darcy took advantage of the chaos. She fired a shot over the men's head, the sharp crack adding to the pandemonium. "Get off my land," she shouted, "or the next one won't be a warning." The men scrambled for their horses, their bravado gone in the face of an enraged mother horse and an armed woman. They fled, and the mayor pursued them to the property line, making sure they knew she meant business. When the mayor finally returned, sides heaving, eyes still wild, Darcy met her at the barn door. "Thank you," she whispered, running her hands over the mayor's neck. "You saved us." The mayor touched her nose to Darcy's shoulder, a gesture of connection and trust, then hurried back into the barn to check on her cult. Darcy followed, securing the barn door behind them. She'd learned tonight what was necessary, and she was necessary here for the mayor, for the FO, and for the truth about what was happening on this land. The next morning, Darcy rode into town at dawn, leaving Checkers in a stable and paying for his care. She went straight to the sheriff's office and filed a formal complaint about the trespassing and threats, documenting everything she'd experienced and found. The sheriff, a man named Craig, listened with a skeptical expression. "You're the latest one to buy Whispering Winds, then how long you planning to stay?" "As long as it takes," Darcy replied. "Those men threatened me on my own property. They've been running an illegal mining operation, and I have evidence." "Mining operation?" Craig's interest sharpened. "What kind of evidence?" Darcy showed him her sketches and notes. "Gold panning on my land without permission. Survey stakes placed without my authorization. I'm guessing they've been behind the curse stories, scaring away property owners so they could work the claim unnoticed." Craig studied her documentation, his expression troubled. "This is serious if it's true, but it's also dangerous for you. These men, if they're who I think they are, they don't play by rules." "Neither do I. When someone threatens what's mine," Darcy said, "I need you to investigate this formally, and I need it on record that I've reported threats, so if anything happens to me or my property, you know where to look." Craig agreed, but warned her to be careful. "Pride's a dangerous thing out here, Miss Hadley. Sometimes the smart play is knowing when to fold." "I'm not playing," Darcy replied. "This is my land, my investment, and my life. I'm not folding." She spent the rest of the day gathering supplies and talking to people in town, carefully, subtly, asking questions about Whispering Winds Ranch and its history. She learned that the property had been in the same family for 30 years until Old Man Winters died without heirs 2 years ago. The county had auctioned it, and that's when the trouble started. She also learned through careful inquiry that a mining syndicate out of Denver had been buying up claims in the area, paying as little as they could for any property with gold potential. Their local representative was a man named Caleb Thorne. Coincidentally, the same man who'd been the grizzled leader of last night's visitors. The pieces were falling into place. Thorne had probably discovered gold on Whispering Winds Ranch during some survey work, but by then the property was already in county hands. Rather than pay fair value at auction, he devised a scheme to keep the property perpetually vacant and available for his mining operation by creating the curse narrative and terrorizing anyone who bought it. But he hadn't counted on someone like Darcy, someone who saw through the deception and refused to be scared away. She returned to the ranch at sunset. Well armed and alert for trouble, the mayor and FO were resting in their stall, both healthy and calm. Darcy spent the evening reinforcing the barn security, setting up early warning systems using bells and tripwires, and preparing for whatever came next. She also spent time with the mayor, grooming her, talking to her, marveling at how this beautiful animal had defended her. The mayor seemed to understand she had an ally now, someone who wouldn't abandon her or her foe. "I need to give you proper names," Darcy said as she brushed the mayor's golden coat. "You're too magnificent to just be the mayor." "How about Goldie?" "No, too simple." She thought for a moment. "Sunny, like the sunrise. Golden and beautiful and bringing light." The mayor's ears flickered as if accepting the name. "And your son? He's going to be something special, isn't he?" I think I'll call him River after the land that brought us all together." Sunny nuzzled Darcy's shoulder, and little River, already stronger after just one day, watched with curious eyes. The next week was tense but uneventful. Darcy worked on the property during the day, documenting everything, making repairs, and preparing for a long-term stay. She wrote letters to the mining office in Denver, formally reporting the illegal activity and claiming her mineral rights. She contacted a lawyer in Colorado Springs about protecting her interests. And every night, she stayed alert, watching for Thorne and his men to return. They finally came on a moonless night, 8 days after the falling. Darcy heard them long before they reached the house. Her warning systems gave her precious minutes to prepare. She grabbed her rifle, ensured all the lamps were lit. She'd learned that bright light discouraged covert activity and positioned herself on the front porch where she had clear sightlines and good cover. But this time, the men didn't try to intimidate or threaten. They went straight for the barn. Darcy's blood ran cold. They were after Sunny and River. She fired a warning shot. "Stay away from that barn." The man ignored her, working together to force open the barn door. Darcy fired again, closer this time, and one man yelped and dove for cover. But the others kept going, and she heard Sunny scream of rage from inside. Darcy ran toward the barn, abandoning the safety of the porch. She couldn't let them hurt Sunny or steal River. Whatever they were planning, she had to stop them. She burst into the barn to find chaos. Sunny was a golden fury, protecting her FO with every ounce of strength she possessed. 2 men were already on the ground, one clutching a broken arm, the other dazed from a hoof to the head. But there were 6 others, and they had ropes trying to separate Mother from FO. Darcy fired into the air, the sound deafening in the enclosed space. "Touch that FO, and you're dead men." Caleb Thorne turned to face her, and in his eyes she saw something that chilled her. Pure greed, unhindered by conscience or mercy. "That cult is worth $10,000 to the right buyer. Maybe more. You think we're going to let some stubborn woman keep that kind of money from us? That cult belongs to me. This is my property, my horse, my FO. You're stealing. We're taking what should have been ours." Thorne's snarled. This land, the gold on it, everything. We've been working this claim for over a year, scaring off the weak ones who tried to settle here. You're just the latest. Except I'm not leaving, Darcy said, her rifle steady on his chest. And I've reported everything to the sheriff. The mining office in Denver. A lawyer. You're done here, Thorne. For a moment she thought he might back down. Then he smiled, cold and calculating. Maybe, but we're taking the cult. You can't stop all of us. He was right. She couldn't shoot them all, and they knew it. That's when she heard it. Puff B-dots approaching. Multiple riders coming fast. Thorne heard it, too, and uncertainty crossed his face. His men shifted nervously, looking toward the barn door. Sheriff Craig rode in first, flanked by 6 deputized men, all armed. That's enough, Thorne. I got confirmation from Denver this morning. Your mining claim was filed fraudulently using forged documents. The land rights belong to Miss Hadley, including all mineral rights. Thorne's face went purple with rage. You can't prove. I can prove everything, Craig interrupted. We found your camp up in the hills, your equipment, your records. You've been illegally mining for 18 months, making false reports to scare off property owners, and now you're attempting theft. You and your men are under arrest. The fight went out of Thorne's men immediately without their leader confidence. They were just hired hands who didn't want to face serious prison time. They surrendered, were disarmed, and led away. Thorne, being dragged out in handcuffs, turned back to Darcy one last time. You don't know what you've cost me. That gold could have made me rich. It was never yours to take, Darcy replied calmly. And that colt was never yours to steal. When they were gone and the barn was finally quiet, Darcy sat down in the straw, suddenly shaking with reaction. Sunny approached, Little River wobbling beside her, and rested her head on Darcy's shoulder. We did it, Darcy whispered. We survived. Sheriff Craig approached, his hat in his hands. That was foolish, Miss Hadley. Taking them on alone. You could have been killed. I wasn't alone, Darcy said, stroking Sunny's neck. I had help from the most unlikely source. Craig looked at the mayor in full with new respect. That's one hell of a horse you've got there. She saved your life. The sheriff tipped his hat and prepared to leave, then paused. What are you going to do now? Sell the place like you planned. Darcy looked around the barn at Sunny and River, at the ranch she'd fought so hard to protect, at the life she'd unexpectedly found here. No, she said slowly. I don't think I will. Why not? There's gold here. You could make a fortune. Maybe, Darcy agreed. But I learned something these past 2 weeks. Some things are worth more than money. The next several months transformed Darcy's life in ways she never could have imagined. The gold on her property turned out to be modest, enough to provide a comfortable income if mined responsibly, but not the massive fortune Thorne had imagined. Darcy hired a small crew to work the claim legally and ethically, giving her the financial security she'd always wanted without destroying the land she'd grown to love. But more importantly, she discovered that she didn't want to be a property flipper anymore. She wanted to build something, not just buy and sell. And Whispering Winds Ranch gave her that opportunity. She used her mining income to improve the property properly, new fencing, updated buildings, modern equipment. She built a small but professional horse training facility, capitalizing on her years of experience and Sunny's impressive bloodline. Sunny herself became something of a legend in the territory. Her beauty, intelligence, and fierce protective instincts made her the foundation of what would become a renowned breeding program. And River, as he grew, proved to be everything the ledger had predicted. Fast, smart, and magnificent, inheriting the best qualities of both his parents. Darcy trained River herself, patient and consistent, building trust and partnership rather than breaking spirit. By his 3rd year, he was winning races across Colorado and attracting buyers who offered fortunes for his FO, but Darcy refused to sell him. Some things she'd learned were too valuable to put a price on. She also hired some of the previous ranch owners to help her. The young couple who'd been scared away by noises, the old rancher who'd left so mysteriously. She gave them honest work and a safe place to rebuild their lives after Thorne's campaign of terror. Together, they built a thriving community around Whispering Winds Ranch. But the most important change was internal. Darcy had spent 5 years building walls around herself, convinced that financial security was the only protection against life's hardships. Sunny and River had taught her differently. They'd shown her that connection, trust, and loyalty were worth more than any bank account. That home wasn't just a piece of property. It was wherever you chose to stand and fight for what mattered. 1 year to the day after she bought the ranch for $1,000, Darcy stood on her front porch at sunset, watching Sunny and River grazing peacefully in the pasture. The land was no longer cursed or feared. It was known now as one of the finest horse ranches in Colorado, a place where animals were treated with respect and dignity. Sheriff Craig rode up, tipping his hat in greeting. Evening, Miss Hadley. Just wanted to let you know Thorne's trial concluded today. He'll be in prison for the next 10 years. Good, Darcy said simply. Justice served. I also wanted to say, Craig hesitated, seeming to search for words. What you did here, taking on Thorne's operation, protecting your animals, building something worthwhile. It's inspired a lot of people. We've had 3 women buy properties in the county this year, all of them citing you as their reason for taking the risk. Darcy felt unexpected emotion tighten her throat. I wasn't trying to inspire anyone. I was just trying to survive and protect what was mine. Sometimes that's the same thing, Craig said with a smile. You showed people that courage curses are just lies told by liars, that courage and determination can overcome any obstacle that's worth more than gold. After he left, Darcy walked down to the pasture where Sunny and River waited. Sunny nickered a greeting, and River, now a magnificent yearling, trotted over to investigate what she'd brought, always hopeful for treats. "You know what the best part of this is?" Darcy said, offering River an apple slice. "I came here thinking I'd make a quick profit and move on, that I'd stay detached, professional, smart. But you two taught me that the smartest investment isn't always the one that makes the most money. Sometimes it's the one that makes the most meaning." Sunny pressed her golden head against Darcy's chest, and River mimicked his mother, creating a sandwich of warmth and affection that made Darcy laugh. "I bought this place for $1,000, she continued softly, "and I found a fortune, just not the kind I was looking for. I found purpose. I found partnership. I found home." As the sun dipped below the mountains, painting the sky in shades of amber and rose, Darcy stood with her horses and felt completely at peace. The curse was broken, not because it had never existed, but because she'd proven that love and loyalty were stronger than fear and greed. She discovered that the most valuable things in life were the ones you couldn't put a price on: trust between species, courage in the face of danger, and the unexpected family you built when you opened your heart. Whispering Winds Ranch was no longer cursed, it was blessed. And Darcy Hadley, who'd never believed in magic or miracles, had become living proof that sometimes the best investments are the ones that invest in you right back. If you enjoyed Darcy, Sunny, and River's story, please like this video and subscribe to our channel for more incredible tales of courage, horses, and the unbreakable bonds that change lives. Have you ever taken a risk that led you somewhere unexpected? Drop your story in the comments below. We love hearing from our amazing community. And if this story touched your heart, share it with someone who needs a reminder that sometimes the best things in life come from the chances we're brave enough to take. Remember, home isn't just a place. It's wherever you choose to stand and fight for what matters. Until next time, keep believing in the power of courage, horses, and following your